Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the PCAF. I'm your host Preston. Today I'm going to do a little walk around of the 2025 BMW M5 Touring. Show you some of the inside here. Talk about some of the features of the M5. This kind of came out of nowhere. Picked this up a couple weeks ago. I ended up trading the Lamborghini Urus for it. Give you sort of the first little taste of this thing. Haven't seen very many around. This is a Storm Bay is the exterior color. Storm Bay Metallic M5 Touring. It's finished over Kailami Orange. I'll show you some of the inside here. It's pretty crazy. Sort of interior here. Got a nice contrast. M5 there on the seat. Pretty cool. So this wild lighting accent here. There's a lot going on with this thing, so there's a lot to talk about. I'm going to try to do it in a realistic manner to squeeze into this video, but I think the best thing to do is before we go ahead and take it out for a drive, I'm going to talk about kind of the way to set this vehicle up, at least from my perspective. I know there's some different schools of thoughts and ways to do this. Just from the outset, talk about some of the specs of this M5. So this thing has a 650 horsepower twin turbo V8, and then it's coupled to an electric plug-in hybrid system, 717 horsepower total output. And what does that mean? That means that there's quite a bit of complication in terms of the drivetrain. You can just see, sort of getting into this thing, it's pretty complicated. If you've never been in a contemporary BMW product, you're probably going to be pretty overwhelmed. But just generally speaking, sort of getting into this thing, jumping right into it, where you want to go first is sort of your setup mode. And you can see here, there's a lot going on. You have your drivetrain settings and drive modes, Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus, energy recovery. This is basically your brake regeneration. I like to have it set on max, and I'll talk about sort of the way I set this up as we go. Drive logic, that is sort of the ECU. My understanding, we have chassis, steering, brake, MX drive, so that's the four-wheel drive system. You can get it into two-wheel drive and M2 mode, sort of a track drift mode there, and then we have M sound, which is the exhaust valves. But that's the general setup, and there's also sort of a separate little area here for M hybrid mode. And this is sort of the way that you can toggle between combustion, hybrid. You can go full electric here, and then E-control. To be frank with you, I don't even know what that is. I believe it has something to do with the way that the combustion motor recharges the battery. If anybody knows that, I can go ahead and stick that in the comments there. But again, I've had this thing for about a week and a half. Still really don't know everything that's going on with it. And then outside of M hybrid, there's also the M mode. And so there's a road, sport, and track setting that you can separately toggle, and then you have your M1 and M2 buttons here. So the way that I have this thing set up, and some people may do it differently, obviously, the M1 is sort of my comfort everyday drive setting. You can see here I have the chassis and comfort, steering comfort, braking and sport though, because I want a little bit harder pedal, more aggressive brake feel. As you can see, I have in four-wheel drive, obviously, exhaust on. But the important bit here for me is this max energy recovery here, and that really saves you on sort of the brake wear, especially when you're just daily driving this thing, stoplight to stoplight. I find that it works quite well. It's not like a fully electric vehicle where it actually brings you to a full stop at the light. You do have to still use the brake pedal to come to a full stop, but it really does reduce the brake wear, and that's important on something that weighs about 5,000 pounds. So that is my sort of daily drive friendly setup. That's my M1, and then M2 is basically my, what I refer to as sort of the batshit mode. And you can see here, go ahead and click that again here. This is M2. Showing we have Sport Plus here, M hybrid mode and Dynamic Plus. That's basically the most aggressive setting. Transmission, Sport, more aggressive shifts, Drive Logic, Sport Plus. So this is basically all out. Limited DSC stabilization here. And there's also a way you can turn off the traction control fully, which I don't do on public roads, but for safety reasons, and it's just very foolish to do so. But that's sort of the crazy mode here. And then your M1 is basically, the way that I like to do it, like I said, is this is the friendliest mode, it's the most efficient mode, and it's great for daily driving, everyday use. Sort of generally about the interior, you can see this Kailami orange here at finish. I think it's really, really nicely done. I think that BMW is lagging for a long time behind Mercedes, AMG, and so on, but I think that they really stepped it up. I know that some of the design language in these new BMWs is pretty controversial, but I really think that they hit this thing out of the park. It's a wonderful place to be. Seating position's great. You know, the steering wheel, people always say it's too thick. I personally love it. I think it's a great sort of bolstered steering wheel here. You got the flat bottom here for track use, whatever, sporty use. Bowers & Wilkins sound system, beautiful. Sounds so good, the thing bumps. This is kind of fun too. In the M mode, this turns red, and sort of its comfort setting stays blue, so it, you know, it's sort of gimmicky, some people might say, but it's actually a really fun place to be, and you know, passengers love it and get a kick out of it. So, of course, you have the classic M striping on the seatbelt there that M division has been putting in their cars since, I believe, the late 80s with E30 M3. So, really nice place to be. Lots of nice storage. Just a USB in there. 2 big cup holders, 2 phone chargers, giant glove box. Sort of nice Alcantara suede headlining there. Show you really quick and then we'll go ahead and head out. This does not have a sunroof. It's a full panoramic roof here. The beautiful sunshine coming in. Just a really nice place to be. Tons of practicality. Touring, obviously, being a wagon. Tons of room for luggage and so on for road trips. So, great place to be. So let's go ahead and get this thing out on the road and I'll talk to you a little bit about how it drives. So the M5 Touring G99 out on the road, what is it like to drive? Sort of going through sort of my little neighborhood here, slower roads, but it's pretty interesting. I have this thing in M1, as I described. It's sort of the way that I have it, sort of its softest setting. So chassis turned down. I have it on the M hybrid mode, which is the most basically efficient balance between the combustion engine and the hybrid electric system. So right now, creeping along, it says I have 27 miles of just pure electric range, which I think is pretty cool. I think that, you know, it's obviously pretty controversial that an M5 is a hybrid. I think that kind of made some waves when they made that announcement, and to be honest, I'm not really a big fan of plug-in hybrids. I think you should just basically either go, you know, full combustion or full electric. But I have to say that this car has swayed me quite a bit, and it's the way that BMW M set up the seamlessness of the drivetrain in terms of the dual personality of the M5 wagon, which I think is great. I think the electrification really actually improves the daily driving experience rather than detracts from it. But it also adds, you know, that flair and that element to the performance side too. So I do think that it is actually a welcomed addition. Yes, I know that the big joke with this car is the weight. Obviously, it adds quite a bit of heft to the M5. I think that this thing does weigh somewhere over 5,000 pounds, which is huge. But I have to say, and I'll show you when I get on some of my better roads here, that you really do not feel it. This thing feels just as, if not more capable than the previous generation, in my opinion. Having spent some time in the previous M5, it is really dialed in. It's crazy. I had a Lamborghini Urus prior to that. This car replaces that. This car drives better in a straight line and in corners. It is an absolute just Autobahn weapon. And I'll talk about, you know, some of those things and some of the dynamicism and performance characteristics as we get out into some better roads here in a moment. Might be able to see that it's still in full electric mode. The engine is not kicked on yet, but I'll talk about some of the things that I like about this M5. First of all, as I said, my M1 mode is sort of my comfort mode, and I'm pleased to report that comfort mode in BMW M actually means comfort mode in this M5. The last M product, that at least contemporary M product that I personally experienced, was a 2023 X5M, and I had thought about buying one of those prior to the Urus, and I have to say that even if it's in its most comfortable setting, it was unlivable almost on Michigan roads here where I am. The roads are just atrocious. I talk about that in every video. Just kind of a nightmare to live with, potholes and so on. But this M5 is super comfortable when it's dialed back, and it really is sort of the best blend, you know, versatility-wise, performance and comfort. I know that that's sort of a cliche with a lot of the vehicles in the luxury performance segment, but it's definitely true with this M5. Engine just kicked on here, sort of warming up the M5. What is it like to drive? And it is exceptional. I think that's really the word that describes it best. Like I said, when you have this thing in M1 even, you still have all the performance on tap. It is not withheld from you regardless of the setting that you have the car in, which I like a lot. So when you have it in that the M hybrid mode, you have access to the full electric power, full access to that twin turbo V8, and it is just crazy, this thing. Slowing me down here with the max regeneration, but I'll really can kind of show you what this thing is all about in a second. But yeah, I think that leaving it M hybrid, sort of M1, is definitely sort of your sweet spot. You can hear that engine kick in here, but it is just super dialed in. I mean, M has always been about handling. They made some of the best handling cars on the planet, and this is no exception. But that main rival to this car, especially in the US, really the only rival now that the Mercedes AMG E63 estate has been discontinued, is the Audi RS6. And this is my pick of the two, far and away over the RS6. RS6 feels a lot more floaty, doesn't feel as dialed in as this, even in the performance variant. I think that to get something comparable to this, at least road feel wise, you got to get up to that highly limited RS6 GT. But the M5 is just a handling masterpiece despite its weight. Not only is it a handling masterpiece, but it is just an absolute just mile muncher and just a monster on the highway. So the engine's nice and warm, nice warm tires. Let's put this thing in M2 mode. In the words of Harry Metcalf, it's very easy to go illegal in this car. It is just a monster. I mean, just a tap of the pedal and you're just flying. Obviously M2, immediately you feel that stiffness in the suspension. The throttle feel is much more aggressive. Steering tightens up. It feels very akin to the Project 8 that I had when you have it in this crazy M2 mode. It feels like a totally different car, and that is, I think that perhaps more than any car that I've owned, the disparity between sort of the M1 comfort setting that I have in M2 is probably the largest in any vehicle that I've had in terms of just that difference in characteristic between the two modes. I'm gonna get around this slow van here in a second. It is just a weapon. That's sort of an S-curve up here. I hope it comes through the camera where you can really see the aggression. This thing's really just jumping around now. Wants to hug every corner. 30 mile an hour corner going at like 50. Holy cow. Just slow moving traffic in front of me. It is just so precise. And the steering is exceptional, as I said. Even with that max regeneration that I have on, with that braking, it feels really good. It actually helps you sort of guide around the corner. You can sort of feel that with the torque vectoring. I think the M engineers really designed this well and allow you to sort of exploit that regeneration brake feel, even in a track setting. But it's something you got to get used to, obviously. You haven't driven a hybrid vehicle or an electric vehicle. But I personally like it. I daily drive a Lightning, so it sort of gives me that feel with it on a daily basis. Sort of a nice little element. Like I said, it sort of reduces the brake wear. So let's talk about the good and the bad of the M5 Touring G99. Starting with the negative side, first thing is, yeah, I mean, yes, it's heavy. Obviously, it's much chunkier than it was in previous generations. I do think that it doesn't feel like an SUV. It still feels like a sporting wagon. But does it really need to be over 5,000 pounds is the question. There's a lot going on here besides just the plug-in hybrid system, and I'll get to some of that in a second. But yeah, just lots of gizmos and things that probably don't need to be added to an M car. You know, M car used to be about just pure driving, handling, moderate acceleration, but really about the handling. Car you can take to the track and enjoy it every day. Sort of that dual personality sports car. But there's a lot going on in here. You can see sort of the gimmicky lighting if you're not into that type of thing. Just a lot here that probably doesn't need to be here, and I think that adds to that weight factor. And as I just mentioned, possibly another drawback of the M5 is the complication of not necessarily the drivetrain, but just everything going on here. I showed at the beginning of the video this M hybrid, then there's a setup, and then there's an M mode. They're really all different modalities of a setup. So if you've never been, like I said, in a modern day BMW, this is gonna kind of take you back, and it's almost gonna be overwhelming for you. And the added hybrid system adds to that complication. So you got to figure out, what's your braking regeneration. You got to figure out road, street, or track mode, and then there's M hybrid setup. Do you want to have it recharge the battery? What's the best mode for you to drive in? How do you set up M1, M2? So there's a lot going on here, and it's overwhelming for the general, I guess, consumer. But the question is the general consumer going to be, if it's not a car enthusiast, going to be buying an M5 Touring? And the answer is probably not. But even as a car guy, and I guess a younger guy, it still took me quite a bit, and perhaps I still don't know all the little intricacies of setting this car up. And I'm pretty good tech-wise. I'm not some computer whiz, but there's definitely an element of complication beyond probably what it should be. So that's definitely a drawback. Third drawback, is it the looks? I think it's a pretty good looking car, actually. I wouldn't call it a pretty car. I'd say it's more brutish than anything. It definitely has an imposing presence on the road. I think people move out of your way when they see you coming in the left lane. I think that it's kind of goes without saying that the modern day M cars are not as beautiful as they used to be, right? I mean, this is not your E39 M5. This is not your E30 M3. I think that, you know, we kind of have come to accept this new design language and sort of modus operandi behind BMW M now. With these big, you know, fish face grills and the light up grills and everything going on. Again, imposing presence. I like the look of it, but does it need to be as brutish? Can it be more refined and sort of tasteful like the M5s of old? And that's the question. So that's a subjective comment, obviously up to the individual consumer. So moving on to the positives and the likes of the M5, and there are just so many. The first is just the way that it drives. I mean, it is just a phenomenal car to drive, whether it's everyday or in performance driven situations. It really does do it all. The way, like I said, M1, my comfort setting, max street regeneration, you can sit back and enjoy your morning latte should you wish. Hop it over to M2, limited stability, traction control, dials up that motor, dials up pretty much everything to 11, and it is just an absolute beast. Almost as extreme as something like the Project 8 Jaguar that I had. It is really a one size fits all, does it all sports saloon slash wagon, and I wish that there were more cars like this. Like I said, the only other vehicle really in this segment in the United States is the Audi RS6, but I think that this is the choice of the two. The second like actually is the price, and I know cars are getting more and more expensive. I might kind of balk at my comment with this. This M5 Touring is about $121,000, and yes, that's a lot of money, but when you think about what this thing offers in terms of the practicality, the performance, 717 horsepower. I know that horsepower wars, everything seems to have just a boatload of horsepower now, but the complication of this drivetrain and the way that it works, it's very effective in deploying its performance all the time. Shut up, Blaze. It's a super complicated system, and it's a very well engineered car. You know, there's no rattles. It really feels like it's a lot more expensive than it is, and so I think that you're getting a lot for $121,000. Like I said, I think that it drives better than the Lamborghini Urus that I had, which is double the price. So big thumbs up to BMW. I think it's a great value. Overall, BMW G99 M5 Touring, 10 out of 10 from BMW. I absolutely love this thing. I encourage you, as I said, if you're in the market for a performance sedan, performance wagon, please consider the M5 Touring. I'm telling you, this is just a fantastic product from BMW. You absolutely hit a home run with this thing. You're watching the PCAF. I'm your host, Preston. Thank you so much for tuning into the video. If you could give me a like and subscribe, really appreciate it. I have more content on this vehicle and other vehicles coming along soon. Thank you so much.